Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of the Guy Debate Server. I'm the moderator for tonight's debate, Hollow, and the topic will be: Is the current situation of the top 1% in America justifiable? Arguing in the affirmative is the iPhone user Conservativegirl, and arguing the negative is another iPhone user, TheGayMenace. Each debater will be given a 5-minute opening argument. After each debater has given their opening, they will then have 10 minutes to rebut their opponent. After the rebuttals, they will have 20 minutes of open dialogue, asking each other questions with as minimal interruptions as possible. After the dialogue, they will both offer a 5-minute closing. This will conclude the debate, at which point we will allow the audience members to connect and ask questions to the debaters. The debaters only answer questions they are directly asked, so if you wish to hear both people answer, make sure to ask both of them. The Q&A will last 30 minutes. After this 30 minutes is expired, the recording will stop, so any further discussion between the debaters or the audience will not be included in the YouTube upload. The rules are quite simple. The debaters will not be allowed to go over time during the opening or they will be muted. The rebuttal, however, will be given 15 to 20 seconds of overlap since the debaters will likely be creating as we go along. The open dialogue will be as free as possible, and while the debaters are restricted from directly insulting one another at any point during the exchange, profanity will not be censored as long as it's not used gratuitously. If the conversation between the debaters becomes incoherent, I, the moderator, will intervene to bring it back to the point at hand. The closing will also last for no more than 5 minutes, or the debater will. During each phase of the debate, I will let the debaters know when they have 1 minute left, 30 seconds left, 10 seconds left. And if they're still talking after their time expires, they will be muted and we will move on to the next phase. The audience is allowed to utilize the debate text chat to fact check the debaters and deliberate the topic among themselves. However, you will not be allowed to connect until the Q&A, at which point a queue will be initiated for you to join if you wish to ask a question. Conservative Girl, feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. America's top 1% has been unfairly judged by a lot in our country because people see all their mansions and supercars and black cards, and they never see all the work that gets put into that, like the sleepless nights, the piles of work on their desks every day, and the money that they needed to risk in order to start the business that helped them become successful. Everyone wants to be rich, but very few people are ever willing to put in the time needed and risk their own money like that. 80% of American millionaires are self made. For when people claim that it was just inherited money, that's incorrect for the vast majority of them. Um, like, we're literally watching people achieve the American dream, and then we're getting mad at for achieving it. And we demand people like Bezos pay their quote unquote fair share, but where were all of us when Amazon was just starting out? We weren't helping Bezos in his basement put things into boxes and risking our own money. And everyone feels entitled to the benefits when companies are successful, but no one ever wants to risk themselves to help it. Not to mention, the wealth of the top 1% is primarily made up of business ownership stakes, not money. They appear so wealthy on paper because of their assets, but once the stocks are liquidated, their worth goes down usually because selling million in stocks causes the market value to drop severely. So for people who have like only $25,000 worth of stocks, the value of the market wouldn't change and they would actually make more money than people who own a bunch of stocks and look richer. So people on the bottom actually have the advantage with that. And places like Amazon employs 750,000, Walmart employs over 2 million. So we benefit a lot off of billionaires and their business just as much as they benefit off.
Are you done with your
Yeah.
part? All right, so that's an extra 3 minutes that you can have, Menace, and begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, first of all, I'd like to say I resent being associated with iFunny. That is a scurrilous rumor that you can't prove. Second, I want to talk about the morals of it. John Rawls is one of the most influential political philosophers to ever exist. He wrote a book called The Theory of Justice. In this, he set out a he set out a world that in our world there are groups of people who are faced with a world with moderate not severe, in most cases, levels of scarcity. They don't tend towards naturally selfless or selfish behavior. However, working together to achieve something is often more efficient. With these factors in mind, he argued that if people were in a position where they didn't know where their place in the world would be, right, where they didn't know if they would be upper class or lower class or anything in between, he said they would take what's called the original position. And he said that any reasonable person looking at the world with these conditions from the original position would strive for a system with a position of initial equality and opportunity of advancement, right? So basically, people would go for a position where everyone had a chance to succeed and an equal chance to be able to succeed if they worked hard. Uh, from here, he set up the difference principle. He said it was a logical conclusion. Basically, it permits the inequality and redistribution, so the government giving more to poor people and taking more from rich people, only if those inequalities are used for the poor people, because poor people have in their birth a disadvantage, right? And he says that the original position says that we should attempt to fix this. And he said that everyone has has an equal ability. Everyone should have an equal ability to claim a portion of society's wealth as long as they are willing to work for it, and that the position of your birth should not affect that. In America, the position of your birth affects that a lot. We are fifth in terms of economic mobility. Rich people have many advantages, such as easy access to college, where poor people have to take out massive student loans, which prevent them from searching for jobs or having as much of a cushion to search for jobs because they have to get one as soon as possible. Um, the name of the author is John Rawls, Rawls. They also have better education, public education in rich neighborhoods. It's significantly better because of the way that we distribute money from property taxes. Also, they have more access to starting capital for businesses, as well as social capital or the connection that your parents have, which they can help you with. For reference, starting capital is how much money you have to initiate something. I will post a link when I finish my argument. The second moral argument is that basically the government and its support of the people is is the thing that keeps fiat currency able to continue. And fiat currency is incredibly good for everyone in the economy, but especially the rich. As a result, uh, the society which is held up by the masses which accept the fiat currency should have a right to um, redistribute it to a degree which they accept. And then the economic reasons. First is a subversion of democracy. Rich people have an unequal say in how our government runs. If if 1 out of 5 rich people want a policy change to happen, it will only happen 18% of the time. If 4 out of 5 want it, it will happen 45% of the time. For average income Americans, it has 0% change. It is 45% if 1 out of 5 and 45% if 4 out of 5. They own our democracy, right? And we as the masses allow them to have this fiat currency, which is incredibly good for their stocks, and we also maintain Wall Street. And for this, they are manipulating and perverting our democracy. And then, how much time do I have left?
You have about 3.5 minutes.
Excellent. Then we have the argument of the destruction of the economy via lacking human capital. So, human capital is loosely defined as an intangible asset or quality that has some economic value, such as a worker's experience or skills or education or training, intelligence, health, literally anything that makes them more productive.
This here because reasons. Well, I did not mean it for the debaters, but rather for the other spectators.
So,
I apologize.
thanks. Why does it matter? There was once a belief that was held that capital goods, which are goods that help increase future production, are the most important thing to help develop an economy. Recently, in developed economies, economists have began to change their mind on this, and they've begun to shift to a position that it is more important for human capital to grow and develop. You need a more educated workforce, a more educated populace, in order to get the higher paying jobs, in order to access the more expensive new commodities which are being made.
When you finish that point there, that'll be the end of your intro, and then she can rebut.
Okay. Basically, and it's expensive to develop these things and to have a system where the rich have so much money and it's actually hurting the society as a whole, and not redistribute it to make society better is not, in my opinion, logical or justifiable. And that will finish most of my points.
All right.
Before we go any further, who used that TTS bot?
Not me.
It was Democratic Anarcho-Monarchist, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, it was.
do not use the TTS bot or you will be put in jail, so you can't. Continue.
And CG, you have 10 minutes to rebut, starting whenever you're ready. Wait, we gotta unmute her. Go ahead,
Your
Maddie.
morals.
Maddie, you gotta start over.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
All right, your morals shouldn't dictate my bank account, first of all. If you want to give to the poor and you want to help people with their monetary issues, by all means do so, and I encourage that, and I think that's great and that everybody should do that. But I don't think that I should be forced to do that, or that you should tell me how much I need to give of money that I made from working to these people. To say that it's a moral issue is, I believe, incorrect, because there's a lot of people who are in poverty because they're choosing to be in poverty. And I'm not saying that's all of them, and I'm not saying that the poor or are lazy, but I think that a lot of people are where they are because of the choices that they've made, and sometimes you have to live with those consequences, and we should help people to better themselves, but it's not a moral issue on whether or not somebody should be taxed. If you look at things like you're saying, we need a more educated population. I definitely agree with that. If you look at the high school graduation rate in urban areas that are poorer versus suburban areas, the high school graduation rate in the urban areas are 50% versus 73% in suburbia. So these people are having these resources. They have the option to go to high school, even if it's not as good of a school as in richer places, and half of them are choosing not to do that. That's on them. We shouldn't punish millionaires and billionaires by taking their money for people having these options and then blatantly disregarding them. According to cbpp.org, only 52% of able-bodied people on welfare are working full-time. That is on you. If you're not putting in the full-time work to a job, we shouldn't be giving you money that a lot of people worked very hard for and worked over a regular full-time job to earn. That's not your money to take. And actually, workers benefit more from a business than the CEO does. If you look at, for example, the annual expense report from Walmart, the store brought in $514 billion in a year. 385 billion of that was used for store expenses. 50 billion went to paying the 2.2 million workers there, and 107 billion was spent on SG&A. Of the 514 billion they made, 490 billion was spent on the store and employees, not going into the owner's pocket. According to Jason Furman, the former chairman of Obama's economic advisors, standard data shows that the tax system is overall progressive. Billionaires are paying their fair share despite what many are led to believe. And that's because people are only looking at the federal tax rate and saying, look, they're paying a lower federal tax rate, while ignoring the payroll, state, and local taxes as well. When you take those into account, the top 1% is paying 33% in taxes, while the lowest 1/5 of taxpayers pay only 2% of taxes. according to the Congressional Budget Office. So to say that they're immoral because they don't want more of their money taken from the government when a decent chunk already is just incorrect. I think it's much more immoral to watch somebody work hard for their money while you did nothing. You're not the one risking your money. You weren't the one putting the effort into creating a startup business that became successful. I think it's much more morally corrupt to watch somebody put in work and money and time and effort, become successful, and then think that you're entitled to their money for work that you didn't do. I'm done.
Excellent. Am I up?
Yep. Whenever
Okay, so
you are ready.
starting from the beginning, the claims you made in your intro. So you said the work they put in justifies it. Now, the claim that you're making is one that I think should be true. I don't think it is true. And this equates to a couple of things you said in the end. First of all, that high schools in urban areas versus suburban areas, yes, if you just look at numbers without looking at the reason for those numbers, right? My claim is that those people are not dropping out because of personal failings, right? They are dropping out because they have systemic disadvantages, which make it harder for them, which make it less likely for them to continue all the way through high school. The John Rawls idea, the theory of justice idea, is that we make a society in which people don't have these systemic issues, and that if you start born to a poor family and you make no bad choices because you are a baby, right, you will have exactly the same chance of rising up in wealth as if you are born to a rich family, and that isn't the case in the country that we're in, right? I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. I do not care about the theory of justice doesn't say anything about people who are currently poor. It says stuff about people who are born poor, and it says they shouldn't be born poor because or no, that being born poor should not incur negative effects throughout their entire life. Right? Basically, they didn't do anything wrong. They're too small to have done anything wrong. Next, you said 80% of millionaires are self-made. This is a absolute murdering of the fact. 80% of millionaires are first generation millionaires. That does not mean they're self-made. If your mother and father had a combined wealth of $999,999 and you find $1 on the street, you are not a self-made millionaire, right? I think we can both agree on that. These people, these millionaires, go from these people that these self-made millionaires either are celebrities overwhelmingly, or they are from incredibly rich families who then become richer, right? You don't see many people going from the bottom to the top. It doesn't happen as often, right? Next point that you made is a point that I covered. Jeff Bezos. You said you didn't, where were we when he was putting stuff in boxes? Well, I was, sadly, first of all, not born, actually, so that's really good. But if I was alive then, I would not be, and here's what he did, getting a $100,000 loan from my family with no interest that I didn't have to pay off. Okay? He was born to a wealthy family, and he got lucky being born to a wealthy family, which gave him tremendous advantages over poor people, right? That allowed him to become the biggest to become the richest man in the world. I have something. I need you to explain to me further what you meant by the people at the bottom of the stock market with only 25,000 in get more out, because just if you get, it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I misunderstood you. Next, Amazon employs a lot of people. Walmart employs a lot of people. Yes, and this combines with the CEO payroll thing. If you have 40 CEOs and, like Walmart, 2.2 million employees, you could give, like, think about it. If I did this with bread, we have 2.2 million employees. We gave them 100,000 bushels of wheat, and we only gave our poor 40 CEOs 500 bushels of wheat. That is, I mean, how are they going to survive? They've gotten so much less. But when you talk about it in reality, per capita, they've gotten so much more that it's not even worth comparing, right? Next is the only 52% of people on welfare. What kind of welfare? I would love to see a source for a lot of the stuff that you've said, if you have it. Next is the morals shouldn't dictate bank account. I know everyone's going to meme on this. We live in a society that was built by people. This is not a natural state of humanity. We made this to make lives better. Morals are the reason why it continues. If you do not want to follow them, you can leave. This isn't my argument. This is Benjamin fucking Franklin's argument when he said that if people don't want to pay taxes, they can go live in the woods. Okay, because taxes are useful to forming a functioning society, and functioning societies form around common moral. Functioning societies form along small or some form of moral agreement, which is usually codified in a constitution or exercised through the government. I think that about covers it. Charity is good. I don't need to mention that. I don't know why I wrote, oh my God. Willing to put the time in needed. Rich people, they get more of a return for the time they put in towards working, right? If I went out and I started working my ass off at a factory right now, I would be earning less than if a millionaire went out and he found a job that he could get within a day, right? That he could get within a day, and he started working, and we both work 80 hours a week. I'm not going to get anywhere. He is. Oh, Amazon. We don't benefit from Amazon employing people. Amazon puts air conditioners in their factories with robots, but not with people, because body bags are less expensive than air conditioning, but fixing a machine isn't. That is horrible. When we put it down, money to risk. They didn't risk any money. Bezos didn't risk any money. These rich people, they don't risk money 99% of the time. They get the money because they were born into a relatively wealthy family. Not millionaires. I'm not saying millionaires. But they are born into wealthier families, and they can then spend that money because it's less of a risk for them. If I spend $100, right, it is more of a risk to me than if a billionaire than if Jeff Bezos spent $50 billion, right? They don't put in risk. They don't even live on the same wavelength when we talk about risk. That should cover. I would like a source for the Congressional Budget Office, as well as the Obama guy, so that I can tell when those happen, and that should cover it.
All right, and since you guys had some time left after you spoke, the open dialogue will be 30 minutes instead of 20 minutes, and that can begin whenever you guys are ready.
Could you explain to me the statement you made about the people at the bottom of the stock market?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you first, the news sources, the Congressional Budget Office is the source for that one.
Can you link me them?
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll text you them after. But
I need them now.
Okay, so for the stock market, basically what I was explaining is, let's just say there's a billionaire, they're worth, I don't know, $1 billion. And we see that on paper, like you tell the person they're worth $1 billion.
No, I get that. I mean the part at the end.
No, I know, I'm getting
okay.
there. So what a lot of people don't understand, they think that means that person has $1 billion in the bank. That's not what that means. Most of the time, in the vast majority of cases, the majority of that person's $1 billion isn't actually liquidated funds. So they don't have the actual money in their pocket. They have stocks, and their stocks are what's worth that much money. So if they randomly decided they want that money and they want to sell all their stocks for liquidated assets that they could actually spend, and they went and sold 500 billion stocks.
Hey, CG,
yes.
real quick, can you find that source real quick for your point?
Which one?
The one that Menace asked you to provide, and you said you'd send after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, finish your thing first, though. I don't understand how. I understand that diminishing marginal returns, but he's still going to get the 20. If the rich person sold 25,000 and the poor person sold 25,000, they would both get 25,000.
No, here. Well, yes, they'd both get 25,000. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
over
diminishing marginal returns. They're not advantaged, right? Because
No,
they're
I'm
rich
saying like
or poor.
if a poor person sold all their stocks, they'd make more money than if a billionaire sold all their stocks.
Okay, I thought so. That's
Yeah.
called diminishing marginal returns, or diminishing returns. They would still sell $25,000, right? They would still get the 25,000, and then they would get anything after that, and slowly it would get less and less valuable, right? But they would still get more money. No one thinks that all their money is in a giant bank vault, but they do
You'd
have a
be
lot more.
surprised.
They do have a lot more. Yeah, some no, that you can say you'd be surprised to ever believe. Okay, the people believe the Earth is flat. But no, my point is, most logical people don't think that they have all their money in a giant Scrooge McDuck bank vault. Okay, but they do have a significant amount of liquid assets, and they do have the ability to get over time a gargantuan amount of liquid assets by liquidizing properties that they have, because they also have a lot in properties that they personally own, as well as selling things on the stock market in little bits across all of their stocks, right? They can do tactics to get tremendous amounts out, more so than somebody with 25,000 out, even beyond the diminishing returns. Right? So that point is kind of true, but only true if you're looking at like that one specific little thing with no context. Okay? And also, it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that what they have right now is a system where they can pervert democracy to the point where they pay a lower effective tax rate on their income, right? Than the lower half of America. The top 400 families pay a lower effective tax rate than the bottom half of Americans, right? I'll get the number and the source for you on that in one moment. Here you go. It is The Triumph of Injustice, and it is a book. So
Wait, I just have a really quick question. Hollow, where am I supposed to send the sources you asked for?
Send that in, debate text chat, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's one. It has everything you need in book.
So, I would love for you to tell me what you disagreed with me.
I again disagreed with the whole morals thing. You're saying, well, we created society to be moral and to help everybody and to be better. Again, you're speaking based off of your morals, not mine, not everybody else's. You can't decide what is or isn't moral for other people and
No,
what they have to do with their money.
No, you're right. That's why we have a democracy, right? But in a democracy, right, we do things for the good
No,
of.
we don't have a democracy. We have a constitutional.
That's a type of democracy. I just said you're eating an orange, and I just said you're eating a fruit, and you said no, I'm eating an orange.
Democracy and constitutional have some
You're
significant differences.
no, a constitutional republic falls under the purview of democracy.
It's a type, sure, but it's a very specific type, and it's not the same as just saying a democracy. But regardless, that's not even what the debate's about. I'm just saying.
No, but it is fundamentally about that, right? Because when we look at a society, right, with a democratic system of government, right, yes, we have a constitution. A republic is just a type of democracy that has no bearing on it. The constitution part is the important one. Okay. Yes, we have a constitution that does limit the federal government's power with this, right? However, the people have the ability to overrule that. Okay, the people have the ability to overrule that and say it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for this to continue. In a democracy, the morals of an entire group of people, right? Wait, is Snap what I think it is?
Yeah, you
Okay, we
sent
can
a
talk about that in a
another
moment.
source.
But the morals of the largest group of people, if they are large enough with the Constitution that limits it to a certain degree, do matter. My morals, if I can convince 75% of people to agree with me, do matter more than your money, right? Because here's an important thing: your money would not exist without the participation of this country.
And the majority of this country's livelihood would not exist without that billionaire.
I mean, the buildings would still be there, the demand would still be there. The billionaire doesn't matter. Anyone would fill that hole.
That's not true.
Really?
Really?
So only Bill Gates could make Microsoft.
No, but it was Bill Gates who came up with the idea. It was him who
I mean,
created
he didn't,
the
but
empire and turned it into what it is today.
okay, but someone would have taken the federal contract, which he did. Someone would have won out. Someone would have succeeded. The
And then you
market
would just take
needed
their
someone.
money too?
Yes.
No, Menace.
Yes.
Why?
If they consolidate so much money where they hurt the people, right, where people don't have an equal opportunity to work hard and succeed, right? It's a basic idea I have.
Nobody
If you
is
work hard,
stopping
you should
you.
be able to succeed.
Maddie, try not to interrupt.
Sorry. Nobody is stopping you from working hard, and nobody is stopping. The only people who say that, the main people who say that, they're their biggest issue. They would rather sit there and complain, oh, life's not fair, oh, this person's rich and I'm not, than do something about it. Like before, you were saying about how if a billionaire works all day, they get more reward than somebody at a factory does if they work all day. Of course, but after a while of putting in a bunch of work at that factory, you're going to make more money than you would had you not put in that work, number one. Number two, you're going to work your way up after a while. I definitely think that there's issues in our country with wealth, but I don't think that they're the fault of the billionaires. I think that it's mainly the fault of things like putting the emphasis that we do on colleges. I think that it's stupid that we tell people that you need to go to college for every job, because at the end of the day, you need to put more emphasis on trade school. We need to start, I would say, I'd agree with putting a cap on the price that a college could be, stuff like that. But we don't need to be taxing billionaires and millionaires for that shit. We already tax them enough. It's their money, and at the end of the day, if they want to keep it, they should be entitled to keep it.
Okay. So, first of all, this one of the articles you sent was written by a guy who wrote one article before that and nothing else, and he has no credentials. The other one I haven't gotten around to reading yet. Yeah. Yeah, he wrote 2 articles, and has no credentials. So next, right? Next is we have trade school. You mentioned trade school. Trade school doesn't develop human capital, right? It makes people who can participate in the higher level market, but it doesn't make people who can actually do more stuff in the higher level market, right? And trade school is important, yes, but it doesn't develop an economy. Okay, you develop an economy by teaching people educational skills that they can actually continue on using to produce something rather than to provide a service. And if they are providing a service, then it's something more high level. Which is not to say that trade schools aren't important or a good option, but they are not the same as a college education. And a college education is important. Okay, it is important. You can't deny it. When you look at the economic statistics of how college education helps people, right, it is undeniably good. Okay, and right now we have a system where the rich, the very rich and powerful, are able to make it so that their kids can get into a system where they won't have to work until they die, like you do like you often do when you're in a trade school, right? They won't have to work in usually terrible conditions, right? Or at least terrible conditions when you get older, right? And the point you made about moving up in the factory, right? No, that's not the same. If I move up in the factory and I make $30 an hour, woo-wee, $30 an hour, my mother has been a nurse. Or no, we won't talk about her because she chose to do what got her the most money, not the most ability to move up. My brother has been kicking ass attempting to move up the ladder as a nurse, and he moved up faster than anyone else. He's currently 36, okay? And he has moved up 1/10. Like he's on like the 6th step down from the CEO. The current person to take place of the CEO, they were born to a wealthy family. They were able to buy their way into a very good business school, and they were hired right out of that using social connections that their father had made. Okay, this is not equality of opportunity. Okay?
Okay, wait.
You can work as hard as you want to move forward. But when it comes down to it, when you're poor, you get way less for your hard work.
Okay, well, if we're bringing family into this, I've mentioned before, my dad was born to a single teen mom in the South Bronx on Arthur
The
Avenue in a
difference
one-bedroom
is
apartment with 5 siblings, dropped out of high school, never went to college, and he does very well for himself. So to say that hard work is never going to get you anywhere, that
I
you
didn't
can't
say it
be
never would.
successful without that stuff is just inaccurate.
I didn't say it never would. I said that it is far less likely if you are poor, right?
It's
My
no,
brother,
yeah.
wait. My brother's story is a representative story of the current situation in America with low economic mobility, right? We don't have high economic mobility. If you want that, you go to Denmark. I wonder why, right? Economic mobility being the elasticity or how much of a change there is between parents and their children in terms of their wealth, right? Um, if you want that, you go to Denmark, right? Your father's story is not representative of that, right? But the difference between him and all those other people, there are literally hundreds of thousands of differences. And to blame it on one difference, and that difference being you think he worked harder without doing any looking for any evidence to the contrary, is absolutely dishonest when it comes down to it.
It's really not though, because I'm not going to disagree with you that it's definitely hard to move up, no doubt. But you absolutely can do it if you put in the fucking work. Like, it's like that quote goes, you either make changes or you make excuses. And at the end of the day, whichever one you pick to do is going to reflect on where you are in life. You were
Okay.
talking, no.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I know. You were talking about before what drives the economy. Well, the main factors that grow an economy are investment, entrepreneurship, scientific advances, and a higher labor force. Billionaires and millionaires are the ones who contribute the most to this. They're the ones doing the majority of the investing in colleges and helping programs and startup businesses, all that other stuff. So they help the economy a tremendous amount. It's not that or I don't even know where I was going with the last part. But
Same.
thank you. No, I meant what I said with they're very good for the economy. They help tremendously. But at the end of the day, the reason we have so many issues, honestly, is because nobody wants to talk about the culture of the ghetto.
Excellent.
Like,
I love that you said
yeah,
that.
no, absolutely.
I have a
It
point to
is
make.
not the
Let her
billionaires'
finish.
fault.
Let her finish.
Yeah, let me finish. So I'm not saying race. It has nothing to do with race. It's the culture of the ghetto.
I know.
The way that people act there. I mean, you're
I don't.
more celebrated in the ghetto if you kill some rival gang members or if you get a 4.0. You need to intrinsically change the way their minds work. You need to reward good behavior and stop rewarding
Stop.
bad behavior like we are right now with
Ow.
welfare this, welfare that. It's okay if you want to drop out. It's okay if you sleep with every dude within a 10-mile radius and get knocked up and 5 different baby daddies will pay for your kids.
I
Like,
don't need
no.
you to project.
Real quick. Menace asked how much time left, and you have about 14 minutes left.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, like, fucking no. Do your work. Stop
I have a
having
question.
a kid. No.
No, I have a question for you.
What?
Do you now? I know you know a lot of rich people, right? But I haven't been able to find this. Could you have them put a request for a Freedom of Information Act in regards to the ghetto culture removing beacons that they put in all the public transportation stops?
What do you want me to do?
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's the ghetto culture, then it wouldn't make any sense if public transportation was one of the most incredibly correlated having it be close to you, how do you connect the fact that that is one of the best indicators you're going to get out of the ghetto? How do these two mesh to you? Is it a coincidence?
Not really. I
So
think
what?
that, yeah, getting to a job is important, obviously, but I think that you're missing.
It is the most important thing.
I think you're entirely missing the entire point. Are you trying to say that the ghetto encourages good habits?
No, I'm saying that being in the ghetto, more so your material conditions in the inner city, right? The material conditions in the inner city are the reason why people do these things, right? It creates a culture because the material conditions there, such as not having a ride, not being able to access higher work that requires a real education, right? These things, right? They create this culture, not the people there, not some miasma, okay? It's not crawling out of the fucking sewers, okay? It's a lack of access to opportunity, which is what John Rawls says when he says that the most disadvantaged poor and low income people who have absolutely let me rephrase that, who have much larger barriers to entry than the very poor or than the very rich, right? They have much higher barriers to entry, okay? They are the ones that we should be distributing the portions of wealth in society to ensure that they have the same equality to opportunity. Equality to opportunity. They have the opportunity to have a high school diploma, be useful. Okay.
Again, they have the opportunity. Half of them are choosing not to take it.
Except they aren't. A high school diploma isn't useful if you can't get to a job that requires a high school diploma. Do you agree with that?
No, I'd actually disagree.
You disagree? Okay, so why?
Because I think that having the diploma is always going to be useful, and it's going to help you further, and it's going to help you be able to move up at whatever job you start at.
Okay. If the only job you can get to without moving, without paying a fuck ton of money, okay, what happened? What if the only job you can get to doesn't require a diploma and you would make more money by just working more? Why would you continue high school?
Justified as
My
opposed
point,
to the
okay.
ghetto.
Let me draw the connection back to the 1%. My point is, and I need to prove this, if I can prove that the poor have systemic disadvantages not from their culture, not from who they are, not from some miasma, but from the way the system is set up, which I believe I have done, okay, we can say that it is therefore unjustifiable to allow a concentration of wealth which could fix this issue, right, to continue existing in the hands of people who are not using it for this, okay? And if fixing these systemic issues would help the rest of society, even those who are not affected by them, I think it is absolutely unconscionable to allow them to continue to have that much money. Okay, that's why I'm going down this path for anyone that's confused. Okay, you have to prove that these things are real, and I think that is something that I have done. However, Maddie seems to disagree.
Yes, I disagree. You're wrong.
So why is the biggest factor not listening to classical music or anything like that, but being close to public transportation?
Didn't Hollow just say to get off this?
He said, okay, Hollow, do we have to quit or is it okay that I just connected it back?
I mean, Maddie, do you feel like he's not connecting it back fast enough?
I mean, I just feel like now
Feel
we're
like it's going in
arguing about the
circles.
poor rather than the rich, but we can. I don't
It's
care.
immoral. It's the rich are immoral because there are the poor.
According to your
In
morals.
according to two systems of morality that I've just laid out.
Yeah, that you agree with. Just because you agree with something doesn't make it.
Okay, so why are they wrong?
Because a lot of billionaires and millionaires work for their money. For those who don't, somebody in their family, whether it be dad, mom, grandparents, whatever, worked for that money, and they're entitled to do with it what they wish.
Okay, even if that hurts other people.
Yes.
Okay. What if you were born to a family which owned slaves? like real ones, would you be entitled to those slaves?
I think that slavery and money is different.
Okay. What
I
about one
don't
that
think that's
owned?
a fair comparison.
You're right. You're right. What about one that owned a factory in which you bought out all the places in town, and you let the workers cash in the paycheck they got, right, for credits which they could spend in town? Would it be moral for you to keep that system going if you were born into it?
That's not the same thing.
Okay. No, I mean,
We have less than 5 minutes for the
you're
open dialogue for a question.
okay. My point is, if you have a system in which the power of the very rich, right, comes from the agreement of the rest of society, right? The rest of society therefore has the opportunity, and I would argue the moral imperative, right? That's probably the wrong word. I'm not talking about Kant. He can go fuck himself. But they have the imperative to say, we would like a society in which everyone has the opportunity to work and move their way up at an equal with equal opportunity, right?
Right. What Here's the thing though, a lot of what you're saying, you're not saying that you want equal opportunity, you're saying you want equal outcome with a lot of things.
Absolutely not.
Yes, you are.
Okay, where?
With you're saying like that they should be able to have jobs that pay higher and all this stuff. You need the degrees. They have the opportunity to do the work. Half of them are not doing fucking work. Their
Okay,
entire culture is just celebrating being lazy and shooting guns and sleeping around and all this other shit that's not going to get you anywhere in life, but it feels good then. So they're doing what feels good then rather than thinking about the future, and that's why they are where they are. It's not the fault of the billionaire or the millionaire that worked their ass off, that came up with a good idea that helps people. I don't like Jeff Bezos. I think Bezos is a piece of shit, but I'll be damned if the majority of America doesn't use Amazon, and if Amazon isn't helpful fuck when you want to order something or when you want to get something or find something or whatever. The majority of us like that idea. A lot of us get
okay,
benefit out of his idea. It helps us with our shopping and with whatever else. So
okay.
if the
You're
majority
ignoring.
of no, if the majority of America is benefiting off of them more so than the average person, then they should be making more so than the average person.
Okay, my question is:
You got 2 minutes to rephrase
do
it.
you disbelieve in the idea of systemic barriers which poor people face, which they face because they are poor and not because of other things?
I don't think there's barriers. I think they have it that it's definitely harder for them to move up in places, but I don't think there's
Why is
anything
it harder?
stopping them.
Okay, a barrier is like a hurdle, not an insurmountable wall. If you have two people running a race and one person has to jump over a hurdle every 25 feet, okay, that they're not running the same race. Okay, one of them has a huge advantage, and what John Rawls says is that we should spread out the hurdles to make everyone have an equal opportunity to run the race and get to the end. He doesn't say that we should make the rich people stop before they get to the end so poor people can catch up. He says we should put equal amounts of barriers to everyone. Basically, that's a really terrible way. And anyone who knows John Rawls, I'm so sorry. Right? He says that everyone should have an equal opportunity, and that if you run faster and you can jump higher hurdles, then you should be able to get to the end first.
Menace, 1 minute warning for both of you.
Okay. Well, basically, I mean, yeah, there's definitely harder things for poor people, but there's challenges that uniquely face the rich as well. I think that it's harder for poor people to become rich, but there's still huge barriers for rich people as well, and that if you put in the work, you can get around the barriers just as easily as anybody else. I think that a lot of these barriers are being put up by themselves. Like, it's a lot harder to succeed if you're a single mother, and a lot of them don't see anything wrong with, like I said, sleeping around with 10 dudes and they become a single mother. Things like that. I think that a lot of these barriers you're blaming for the rich when you should be blaming them and their culture and the fact that they glorify these things.
All right, sorry, Menace, but it's end of the open dialogue and time for the Q&A. 5-minute Q&A.
Time for the closings.
Closings, yes, my bad.
Closing first?
Menace, you'll close first because CG opened first.
Okay. Well, CG, I cannot argue against you if you refuse to. I'm sad that we didn't get to address the challenges the rich face that apparently make it even somewhat comparable. I don't think they exist to make it comparable enough. Like, sure, they face certain challenges, but it's not the same systemic challenges that poor people face. And I think you also fundamentally misunderstand how democracy works, especially with how distribution of capital works, or of money works, and how people should, and how if a majority of people agree that something is moral, they can go about doing it because they're the ones that maintain a democracy, right? And I think that you fundamentally misunderstand, or intentionally or not, I don't care, fail to continue to fail to see that the things you're blaming the culture for come from material circumstances. Okay, if you're in a poor neighborhood, you're less likely to have the pill, right? Which both rich and poor people are less likely to use condoms than the pill because condoms make sex feel worse. And I don't care whether or not that's a valid reason. I'm just making an observation that both the poor and the rich do this, but the pill costs money, so the poor are disproportionately affected by it, right? You have the drugs thing. Well, I think you know better than most of us, with the people that you know, that drugs are also a problem for the rich as well. Okay, but they're not arrested for it, and when you are found out to have drugs, it doesn't continue because rich people are pretty much immune from our justice system, as I told you and was proven right before. Okay. At every point, right, we have so many systemic barriers to the poor, and the rich, they might have a few, nowhere near the same. That should just about cover it, I guess.
All right, Maddie, you can make your closing statement.
So you were talking about how the rich don't get arrested as much for things like drugs. Well, it's true in the sense of cops don't look there as much because cops don't have to look there as much. There's less violent crime in nicer areas than there are in poorer areas. And again, that comes down to culture, making it seem okay there when it's not. So yeah, if you're committing violent crimes and have a higher crime rate overall, of course, cops are going to patrol there more often, and you're going to get arrested for things like drugs more often if the cops are there. Overall, I think you are arguing the wrong thing. I think that you are trying to force your morals on other people, and you're not. You can't do that. You can't be like, wow, that dude has more money than me, or there are poor people here, so we should just make the rich stop being rich to give to the poor people who don't deserve it. They didn't do anything to benefit society. They do the bare minimum sometimes, and you just want to give them money because they're poor, because they're not doing as well as somebody else. I think wrong. Can't decide that somebody created a business that helps so many in society, by giving them jobs and opportunities and all that stuff. You can't decide, well, their workers aren't making it better. There's a homeless person on the street, so you have to give up everything you worked for, everything you risked, all the hours you put in. You have to give that up. You can't make as much as you deserve because there's people that aren't as successful as you. That's just wrong. I'm done.
All right. And since you did a closing time for the Q&A for 30 minutes, do you have that set up, JT?
I do not, but I'm about to get it set up.
All right.
So to those of you who want to ask a question in about 2 minutes, there's going to be a Q bot inside the Q chat. Do not text in that chat. The only thing you need to do is go in there, and you can join the queue, and the queue will automatically cycle. So for whoever has a question, you all go in order.
A reminder, if you want both people to answer, phrase it that way. If you just want one person to answer, word it that way. Like specifically say Menace or CG or both.
All right, the queue has started. You can join the queue by clicking the check mark, and you can leave the queue by clicking the X. All right, we have our first questioner is going to be Dan. Dan, you can go ahead and ask.
My question would be for Conservativegirl. You throughout making the claim that the wealthy should keep the wealthy accumulate. That is also a moral
No, I'm
statement.
sorry, I didn't understand what. Like, can you just repeat it?
Can you hear me better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have said throughout the debate that you believe that the wealthy should keep the wealthy accumulate. And that is also a moral statement. It's like, so that would also be you imposing your morals onto others. How is that justified? And Menace's moral statement not justified?
It's not pushing morals on anybody because it's just saying to leave everybody alone. If you want to donate all your money or half of whatever, then you have that right, but nobody's going to force you to do it because at the end of the day, it's your money. It's different to push your morals on people when it's overtly affecting them than it is to like he wants to take from people. I'm saying leave it alone to them because it's their money.
So you're saying that it's not a moral statement in itself, moral claim?
No, it's not a moral claim.
All right, this is my question.
All right, the next one will be from Unit.
Unit, you're up. Mr. Absolute Unit.
He's talking.
Yep. Yeah.
My bad, I had him on personal mute. Don't know why.
Did that answer the question for you?
Hold on. Can you guys hear him, Unit? Unit?
No.
Yeah, that answered my question.
Oh, okay.
Well, hold on. Can I be heard?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I get that all the time.
I did not hear anything Unit was saying.
Oh,
So-
I asked her if she thinks that the amount of money in an area and its material surroundings can change the culture.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, yes and no. I think that at the end of the day, the majority of culture is based on the people and what they desire and what they want. Like, no doubt that a bunch of the rich are fucking greedy as fuck. But there's also the fact that because they're greedy as fuck, they're working insanely hard for money. They want money, and they're gonna do whatever it takes to get that money. Like, poorer people maybe don't see money as big of a deal, and they don't want to work, and they're not willing to do what it takes. So yeah, there's money culture, there's gang culture, there's ghetto culture, whatever.
Okay. Next questioner is Rad.
Am I good?
Yep, can hear you.
All right, so I will send this. It's by the Heritage Foundation. I'm sure you've all seen a variation of this before. Since 1973, worker productivity has doubled. It has risen. Hourly wages have risen in recent years between 2013 and 2020. But I believe it is in the single digits, so it's not significantly changed. But total compensation, which includes benefits and the pay, has not increased even remotely at the same pace that productivity has. And the graph I sent has 3 ways of calculating it. The most common you would consumer price index, but then there's PCE, I believe, is personal consumption expenditures, and you get the point.
Yeah.
How can you justify the increasing divide between the rich and the poor when the workers are increasing productivity but getting paid less?
Because at the end of the day, you're only entitled to what's in your contract. If you are a low skill worker, even if you're productive at your job.
Sorry, you cut off for me.
Oh, I was saying, because at the end of the day, you're only entitled to what's in your contract. If you are a low skill worker who might be productive, but you're still easily replaceable and still overall you don't bring a lot of value to the company, then of course you're not going to get paid a lot. If I could walk outside and replace you within 5 minutes and you don't offer anything unique to the company, you shouldn't expect to be paid a lot. You should expect your value to the company.
This isn't a debate between you and me, so I don't want to get too far into this, so I'll pass it on to the next person.
You're up, Zosius.
Alright. So I'm going to be the next questioner, but before I ask my question, I just want to let everybody know in the chat, if you have a question, but you do not want to talk on the mic, all you need to do is go to the no mic chat and type your question out, and then join the queue, so we do it in order still. But type your question out, sign your name to it, and then let me know who you want to ask that question to, and I will read it out and have them answer it, so to speak. But you still need to be in the queue chat. Everybody understands that. I'm going to go ahead and ask my question. CG, obviously my question is going to be directed toward you.
Obvious.
How do you determine the value of somebody's labor?
Based on the skills needed to be able to do that labor, based on how replaceable you are, based on the value you create, that kind of thing.
Okay. How often do you think CEOs get replaced?
What the fuck?
What's that?
I don't know how he got unmuted, but now he's remuted.
Okay. How often do CEOs get replaced?
Yeah.
It depends on if the majority shareholders like them. Sometimes there's a proxy contest, but those aren't too often. So.
That doesn't answer my question. How often do CEOs get replaced?
I don't know.
Roughly speaking, on average, a company will replace its CEO every 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Do you know why?
Because the majority shareholders don't like them.
No, because the CEO doesn't actually do anything. They're just a front for the company.
That's not true.
Do you think that people deserve to get paid while they're sleeping?
Sometimes.
How? Okay, so wait a minute. Your whole argument up to this point has been about it's immoral to take away money from people because they worked hard for it. How can you work hard for money if you're getting paid while you're sleeping?
You worked hard to set up the business and to make it so that you're that profitable.
But you're not working. Should people get paid when they're not working?
Yep.
So then it has nothing to do with how much work a person does.
It's not true.
You're contradicting yourself. Either A, okay, a person's labor is what determines how much money they should have, or B, it's not. Choose. It's bivalent logic. Choose.
Nope, it's not. You put in the hard work and you created a business that became so profitable that you get paid in your sleep, and therefore you deserve it.
Okay, so let's try this. How are they getting paid while they sleep?
Because they created a profitable business.
No. Okay,
Yep.
So in order to get paid, work has to be done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we already established that if they're sleeping, they're not doing the work. So who's doing the work?
The employees.
So the CEO is getting paid in his sleep for labor that the employees are providing to him or her.
Yep, because the business created it. The business that they made, that they put in the hard
So
work.
the CEO deserves more money from the value of his employees' labor than they do.
Yep.
I'm going to leave now before I decide to go ahead and just fucking lose my shit.
Alright.
You're up again.
Alright, Unit, you're back up.
Okay. Give me a second. I forgot.
Back away from the mic a little, please.
Sorry, I forgot my question for a minute. I'm gonna. Whoever's up next can go.
I don't know how the next person comes up, JJ.
Wait, what? You just click the arrow. I may not let
Oh
you do
wait,
it.
no, I remember. CG, what value do you add to the economy?
Me?
Yes, you.
I work.
What do you do?
I work at Abercrombie and I have an internship.
No. What do you do?
Like at those jobs?
What do you do that inherently generates economic action? What do you do that inherently generates money? What do you do that benefits everybody else?
I sell clothes and stock shit and
Cool.
read contracts and shit. I mean, like, I could tell you about Abercrombie. Can't tell you about the internship.
So, do you deserve as much money as everybody else working there?
Yeah, and I get just as much money as everybody else working there.
But do you have just as much money?
Yep.
I think you're lying.
No, my parents have more money than them. I
You're
don't.
lying.
Not really lying. I get paid the exact same as everyone else. You can be talking about my parents'
No, you're
money. What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next question. I noticed.
Do you want
Menace,
like
hold
pictures
on,
of my
hold on.
wallet or something?
CG.
Follow on then.
All right,
Okay.
you're getting muted, CG. I said that was enough.
The next one will be sick whenever the
Okay, but hold on.
Q unmutes him.
Menace, you can't ask questions. You're one of the debaters. You're one of the people that people are asking questions to. So the only person you would have the opportunity to ask a question to is CG.
JT, how
And
does the Q get the next person?
I'll cycle it, but it's the arrow, the little arrow there. I don't know if you can see it. It might just be me because I created the queue, so I might be the only one who can switch it. But yeah,
You were
Menace.
server muted for some reason,
Don't.
JT.
Oh, what?
JT, you were server muted for some reason.
Oh man, I was talking and nobody could hear me. That hurts my
I was
feelings.
wondering.
I server muted CG a minute ago because that was mean to me then because I didn't know she didn't hear me. But I said, hey, that's enough. We're gonna go on to the next question. Now that's gonna be hold on. It's gonna be in the recording because the software is recording my voice. That's gonna be an awkward moment. But yeah. So I was server muted. Nobody heard me. But I'll repeat what I said. Menace, you can't be a questioner because ostensibly you should have already said your piece in that 1 hour long debate you just had with her. So this is for the audience, the people who didn't get to have that opportunity. We're gonna go ahead and move to sick now. Menace, I'm going to skip you. If you want to ask her a question, you can do so once the recording is over and everybody has gotten their
No,
opportunity.
you can't.
Okay, whatever, CG. Not my problem. All right, sick, you're up, buddy.
All right, this is a question directed at CG. Can you elaborate more on the impoverished culture that you were referring to?
Elaborate on the ghetto culture?
Yes, elaborate more on the ghetto culture and what do you believe is the causation of this culture?
Okay, well, ghetto culture is basically things like I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in the ghetto, if you get good grades, if you speak properly, a lot of people will look down on you, and it's literally like I know people who have been told to stop speaking white. They think that proper grammar is speaking white. They create a culture where it's okay to have 10 baby daddies. That doesn't matter. They create a culture where dropping out and joining a gang is fine. And if you just listen to their music, like listen to ghetto ass rap music, you'll hear what they celebrate. They don't care if they hurt people. They don't care if they drop out of school. They don't care if they sleep around, do drugs, whatever. It's glorified there and it's normal there. And I think what causes it is honestly, I think that it's just been that way for so long that people have gotten used to it at first and then it turned into celebration of it.
But that doesn't really go to the direct root cause. That's just stating that it's been around for a long time. What do you think is the direct cause from the beginning?
I think bad morals is the direct cause.
Okay, bad morals. And how do these bad morals occur?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you think these bad morals originated? Do you think that these people just randomly decided to have these morals? Like, what's the deal?
Not sure what caused them.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Okay. The next person in the queue is Menace, but he had a debate, so we're gonna go ahead and skip him, and he can ask his question. And Penguin is now up. Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Hold on, Penguin. Wait up, Penguin. I just wanted
sorry.
to say before we go any further, I thought that was a rather riveting socioeconomic analysis from a white girl in suburban Connecticut. But go ahead, Penguin.
Sorry for interrupting. So you said earlier, you answered one of the questions. You said that surrounding material society and stuff affects culture, right?
It can to a degree, yeah.
Okay. And you also, like, I kind of want to continue what Six said about, like, where does this culture come from? Like, where do these bad morals come from that you say is the cause of these problems? Like, they don't come out of thin air. Where do these bad morals originate from?
I told you, like I just said to Sick, I don't know where they come from.
So you're claiming that this main reason that these people are impoverished comes from some nebulous void, basically? Because this should be like a known thing if it's such a big problem, right?
It is a big problem, but I don't know the problem. You can note that there's a opposite. Like, if your car's randomly on fire, you might not know why it's on fire, but you see the fire.
But, like, you can investigate it. You can investigate the car. You can find out afterwards where the fire started from.
I'm sure
This isn't a
somebody
new
has.
problem.
I'm sure somebody
Okay.
has. I'll just again.
But can I add on? Okay, so say we don't know what the cause is, whatever, but how would you propose we fix it then?
I think we could stop rewarding bad behavior. I think that we need to go into the ghettos more of an emphasis. We need to get rid of gang violence. We need to be harder on drug dealers. That kind of stuff.
But if that would be this... Oh, sorry.
We need to put the dad back into the ghetto because they have extremely high rates of single motherhood, and that is a huge contributor to crime and drugs and all that. So yeah, that.
Okay. How do I go to the next person?
Oh, that's fine. There's actually nobody left in the queue. If you have a question, even if you don't want to talk, join the queue. If you don't want to talk, type your question out in the no mic chat. I will read it. But I have to see you in the queue or I won't read it. Does anybody else have a question? I mean, there's almost 30 fucking people in this voice chat. Let's hear it, folks. Who's got a question? Is Kennedy still here? Because she was asking about the question earlier. Don't look at. Oh, well. Nobody else has a question. Nobody else wants to join the voice chat. All right. Menace, you're going to go ahead and get to ask your question since nobody else is in the queue right now.
It's got to be unmuted, I think.
He's unmuted.
Hello. So first of all,
No.
vote in the straw poll. Because, yeah.
I mean, hey, I can create a vote here in a minute.
Well, I already did it, so fuck you. Second, Maddie. I went through like a whole. First of all, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You acting like you are.
I'm not mad at you.
I went through a whole thing of like this culture exists because typically they don't have access to jobs which would benefit from a high school diploma, right? Like if they're doing a cost benefit analysis, they're gonna end up better if they don't get a high school diploma and they in fact do more in terms of college, in terms of working a minimum wage job, right? At least in their cost benefit analysis, because they are in a position where they can't get to a better job.
Hold on, stop. How did everybody get unmuted?
Sam and I.
Because the queue got destroyed. The queue was ended.
But oh my god.
Anyways, they're gonna benefit more if they just go and go do more minimum wage work, right? So you have a culture where the right thing to do at the time is to leave college so you can support more people, or not leave college, but leave high school, right? They are pressured by society, not in terms of culture, although not just in terms of culture, but in terms of material circumstance, which is why when people live near public transportation, right, they can go get a job that gives them a benefit for a high school diploma, right? They do have access to that, which is why when you look at the city of Minneapolis that spread their public housing out over the city, and they distributed their money and made a better public transportation system, their ghettos, right? They took in tons of refugees during the Vietnamese War, like literally tens of thousands into this small city, right? And that should
Menace,
have
can
made
you
a
ask your
ghetto.
question?
Oh, my question is, how is this not an explanation that you accept? Because I gave this in the debate. Did you forget it? Did my mic cut out?
No, I'm just done debating with you. I told you I don't want
Okay.
to carry on the debate. I
All
did
right,
it
so
for
she's not going to
an
answer the
hour and a
question.
half.
That's fine. But just before we quit, I do have a confession to make. I'm a big dumb bonehead, and at a little bit ago, I walked out of my room, but I wanted to keep listening to the debate, and so I grabbed my phone and switched my audio to the phone. So for about 3 minutes, it was not recording on the OBS software. Now, the unfortunate part, it was the best part of the debate, was that circle that Menace and CG were going around in and around in about the, you got to have transportation to get to the job, and you
God
got
damn
to
it.
have a job to get money. You got to have money to get transportation. Can y'all do that one more time just so we get it on the YouTube?
No, I don't think she wants
Please,
to.
please, please, I'm begging you. CG, I will ban you from debating ever again if you don't do that.
Bro, I brought back so many fucking viewers for you.
Come. Oh, okay. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Menace, come on, let's do it. Let's do it. We need that in the recording. That has to be in the recording.
I mean, that's what
I don't remember exactly what I said.
You don't have to, because you'll do it again inevitably.
You will. Okay, so CG, why should someone continue going to high school if they can get more money by dropping out and going to a minimum wage job and working more hours?
Because that's looking extremely short term rather than long term, and the high school diploma will help them in the long run.
How can a high school diploma help them if they can't get to a job that they benefit from having a high school diploma at?
Because in the meantime, they could work a part-time job that doesn't require one, and they could save up to get a better job and get the transportation.
Okay, how can you save up if you're not making enough money to save up? If you're also having to go to school at the same time?
But you're in high school.
What do you mean? What does that statement do?
What the hell do you need to buy in high school?
For many of these people, they actually do have to put their part-time job money towards living because their parents don't make enough, because their parents also could not afford transportation, so they dropped out of high school so they could work more, so they could afford, so forth and so on. It is a cycle of poverty.
Yeah, not everybody gets $10,000 a month spending limits from their daddy.
Okay, that is oh man, that's unfair. She
Okay,
doesn't,
all right.
okay?
I don't.
I objection
But more
withdrawn.
importantly, not everyone can come home to a full fridge regularly.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just like you could still make enough money and still go to high school.
I mean, these people would benefit from not going to high school.
Short term, but not
They don't have transportation to get to a job that would benefit from a high school.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the transport for that.
Yeah, but they could save up for that.
How can they save up for the transport if they don't have them? If they aren't working a job that makes enough money to do that?
Well, they could just work more hours.
How can they work more hours if they're in school to get the high school diploma to go to the job to make?
High school isn't that many hours.
High school is 6 hours out of the day.
That's not
You
that
have
many
to sleep
hours.
for 8 hours. That's
No,
14
you
hours
don't.
out of your.
You don't have to.
A healthy person, especially a teenager, should sleep for really 8 to 9 hours.
Do we know any teenagers that sleep that long?
They
honestly,
should, and we shouldn't expect them to not sleep that much. Do you agree?
I mean, like, Not really.
Okay, so let's say it's 6 hours. That's half of your day is sleeping and okay. Let's say we have another hour for moving between, right? Because you don't have transportation to make it fast, right? That is a total. That is a total of 13 hours out of a 24-hour day. You want them to work every day of the. You want them to work literally every waking moment they have.
I mean, like, no, but if you gotta do what you gotta do.
I think you fundamentally misunderstand my point. They shouldn't have to do that much.
All right,
No,
you
we've
guys are
gotten off topic.
digressing.
It's
You're not doing the
Yeah, I
merry-go-round
think-
that I wanted, and I'm sad. So
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry you missed it. You're a fucking.
I know it was the best. That was gonna be the bit that we pull out and put on the iFunny page. God damn it! That was gonna be it. It was hilarious. But hold on, before I end this recording and we get out of here, Evolutionary Research has a question that he typed in the chat. Now, CG, you're probably not gonna answer it. You're probably not gonna answer it, but I'm gonna ask it anyways, just because it deserves to be recorded. CG,
No, don't you dare.
what makes you
Don't.
think that you, a white upper-class college-age girl who interns in the wealthiest section of the wealthiest city on the eastern seaboard, are qualified to discuss black and, by extension, all minority issues as if you know what the struggle is?
Come on,
Well,
man.
I'm not claiming to know what the struggle is, but I know about the struggle. I know the statistics. I know people who have been in that struggle. I mean, I'm not saying I've experienced ghetto life, but like.
I mean, you haven't experienced life at all, and that's blatantly apparent. So we're gonna go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the 13th debate. I hope you'll all will be back for the. I do.